Today I am announcing the charges against David Anthony Burke, the musician known as David, spelled D4VD, in connection with the brutal and horrific murder of Celeste, a 14-year-old at that time. And there are 3 sets of charges that have been brought. The first-degree murder with special circumstances, and again, those special circumstances are lying in wait. That Celeste went to Mr. Burke's home on the night of April 23, 2025, as alleged in the complaint, at his invitation, and again, was not heard from again. The second is a special circumstance being that this murder was committed for financial gain. As the evidence will show in court, the financial gain was for Mr. Burke to maintain his very lucrative musical career that Celeste was threatening on that particular night. The third charge, in addition to lying in wait and for financial gain, is murdering a witness to an investigation. In this particular case, as the evidence will come out in court, the witness to the investigation was Celeste, and the investigation was into the lewd and lascivious sexual acts committed by Mr. Burke that is the subject of count 2 of this complaint with Celeste while she was under 14 years old. The investigation was to determine who killed, who murdered Celeste months and months before. That investigation was carried out in unison and in partnership between the LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division and the District Attorney's Office. At every point in the investigation, through the arrest and the filing of charges, the LAPD and the District Attorney's Office have worked in lockstep. There's been no disagreements amongst these entities in deciding how to proceed with this case, ultimately leading to these charges today.
In the back of my mind, you died, and I didn't even cry. No, not a single tear.
So what inspired the hook, "In the Back of My Mind You Died," is kind of like the storytelling aspect of the lyrics that came before it, in a way that it builds up to the big moment where she died in the back of my mind. Like, I didn't kill her physically, but in the back of my mind, she died.
Singer-songwriter David Burke, whose stage name is David, has just been arrested in the murder of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas, whose dismembered and decomposed body was found last September in the trunk of a Tesla registered to David. The medical examiner still has not determined a cause and manner of death. Burke is currently being held without bail. For more now, we turn to our Jacqueline Lee in Los Angeles. Jacqueline, why did it take so long to take Burke into custody?
Lindsay, it was months of investigators compiling evidence. Now, sources say the arrest was based off of that evidence and probable cause. Investigators telling ABC News they can prove this was murder. And this was the biggest hurdle for the medical examiner, because when Rivas Hernandez's body was found in the back of that Tesla, it was decayed and it was dismembered. So it was, having to examine a body in that state proved very difficult for the medical examiner. But again, sources say the LAPD was able to compile evidence, enough evidence to prove what they say is beyond a reasonable doubt that this was murder. Lindsay.
And what's next at this point for Burke and this case?
So the evidence was presented to a grand jury, we're told, and we're also told the evidence will be presented to a DA for filing on Monday. As for Burke, he is behind bars. Lindsay.
All right, Jacqueline Lee for us. Thanks so much, Jacqueline.
Celeste Rivas Hernandez was a 14-year-old girl from Lake Elsinore, California, a 7th grader who, according to her parents Jesus Rivas and Mercedes Martinez, was a beautiful, strong girl who loved to sing and dance. Every Friday was movie night. She was the kind of daughter parents dream about. But somewhere between the innocence of childhood and the cruel realities of the adult world she was pulled into, Celeste's story took a devastating turn, one that would eventually end in a Hollywood Hills home, a black Tesla, and a tow yard that smelled of death. Celeste had been linked to David Anthony Burke, known professionally as D4VD, around the time of her disappearance. The pair had appeared together on a Twitch stream in January 2024, and D4VD had been photographed blocks from the girl's home in Lake Elsinore sometime between January and March of that year. Around that same period, Celeste's family and friends grew increasingly worried about her safety, urgently pleading for help from neighbors, the public, and police. She was reported missing 3 times between February and April 2024, culminating in a final missing person report on April 5 of that year. Yet despite those warnings, despite those pleas, the system failed her. Celeste remained alive for over a year after that last report, but where she was, and who knew, remained a haunting mystery. This is the story of how a rising music star allegedly became a predator, and how a little girl who loved Fridays with her family never came home. Like, share, subscribe for more updates on this case. Born in Queens, New York, David Anthony Burke moved to Houston, Texas, when he was 13 years old. He had no formal musical training, just a voice, a phone, and an app. What happened next was the kind of overnight success story that social media was built to amplify. D4VD began uploading music from his bedroom. His sound, dreamy, alternative pop with emotional depth, resonated with millions almost immediately. He first went viral on TikTok, where he eventually amassed nearly 4 million followers. Record labels came calling. Opportunities followed. The world opened its arms to the shy, talented kid from Texas who made music in his room. Eventually, D4VD released his debut album, Withered, in April 2025, embarking on his first world tour shortly thereafter. Tickets sold. Fans screamed his name. The boy who downloaded an app for fun was now a bona fide star, headlining stages, crossing continents. But behind the glowing screens and the adoring fans, prosecutors allege an entirely different story was unfolding. One involving a child. One involving secrets. One that would collapse his carefully constructed world entirely. Prosecutors are alleging that D4VD killed Celeste after she threatened to expose an alleged sexual relationship. One they say began when she was just 13 years old. The same month his album dropped, they say, a 14-year-old girl was dead inside his car. Like, share, subscribe for more updates on this case. April 23, 2025 is the same day tickets for D4VD's world tour went on pre-sale. For his fans, it was an exciting day, a chance to secure a seat at the show of a breakout star. For Celeste Rivas Hernandez, it was the last day she was ever seen alive. Celeste was last known to be alive on April 23, 2025, when D4VD summoned her to his home in the Hollywood Hills, according to District Attorney Nathan Hochman. She arrived. She was never heard from again. According to prosecutors, when Celeste threatened to expose D4VD's criminal conduct and devastate his musical career, Burke allegedly murdered her, cut up her body, and stuffed it into 2 bags that were placed in the front trunk of his car. The night that should have been about tour excitement became, allegedly, the site of an unthinkable act of violence against a child. D4VD reportedly continued his world tour while Celeste's remains sat in the trunk of his Tesla, decomposing, undiscovered, forgotten by everyone except the family still desperately waiting for her to come home. Prosecutors believe Celeste's body was mutilated on May 5, 2025. Her remains would not be found for another 4 months. District Attorney Hochman put it plainly. When she threatened to expose his criminal conduct and devastate his musical career, Burke allegedly murdered her, cut up her body, and stuffed her body in 2 bags. Several months passed before Celeste's body was found in the singer's car in September 2025. The black Tesla had apparently been abandoned on a street not far from the home where D4VD had been renting. It sat there, untouched, unquestioned, a car on a street in Hollywood, ordinary enough that no one looked twice. Then it was towed. After sitting untouched, the car was impounded and towed to a lot in Hollywood, where an employee alerted police to a foul smell emanating from the vehicle.
Calling People versus David Anthony Burke. That's case number 26 CJC F02399.
Good morning or good afternoon, Your Honor. Blair Burke, Marilyn Bednarski, and Regina Peter on behalf of our client, David Burke, who's in custody.
Thank you. And good afternoon, Mr. Burke. For the people.
Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman for the people, Your Honor.
Thank you. And counsel, on behalf of your client, do you waive formal reading of the complaint, advisement of rights, including armed forces and veterans' rights, enter a plea of not guilty, denying any and all special allegations, enhancements, and priors?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're requesting a preliminary hearing within the period?
Yes, Your Honor. From the media reports, apparently there have been 4 months of secret grand jury proceedings. We believe that Mr. Burke is entitled at the earliest opportunity to an open preliminary hearing and the proceedings not be done in secret. So we are asking for a preliminary hearing to be set at the earliest possible date on the 10th day. Your Honor, we believe the actual evidence will show David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, nor was he the cause of her death. And we would like to be able to have the evidence come into the light of day at the earliest opportunity in order to establish that. We're asking for April 23rd as a 3 of 10, Your Honor.
Anything from the people?
We'll be very happy to put on the evidence that we've collected in this case in the last several months.
Thank you. So the matter will be set. Plea of not guilty has been entered on behalf of Mr. Burke. The matter will be set in Department 105. The matter is ordered assigned to Judge Charlene Almeida in Department 105 for all purposes by the Judge of the Supervising Judge of Criminal.
Yes, Your Honor. If I may just put on the record, we have, as soon as the people arrived, delivered a informal discovery request consistent with Penal Code Section 1054. We have been given almost no discovery thus far. We've received a 3-page follow-up report, no autopsy report, and a copy of the complaint. And we would ask the people respectfully to produce discovery at the earliest opportunity.
Your Honor, as I indicated to counsel, there's approximately 40 terabytes of discovery in this case. Moreover, in order to obtain the transcripts from a grand jury investigation, counsel has to file a motion. She knows the way the system works. I'm not able to gather those. They have to be provided after the court orders them released because it was an investigation. Second of all, if counsel plans on going to a preliminary hearing within the 10 days, it is unlikely that there will be very much discovery provided within that period, given the voluminous nature and how long it's going to take to copy onto drives. In addition to that, the coroner's report was sealed in this case in order to prevent it from hampering truthful testimony from witnesses that testified at the grand jury, so an order will also have to be obtained in order to get the coroner's department, which is now the medical examiner's department, to release those materials.
Your Honor, it's surprising news given the District Attorney's Office held a press conference this morning where they discussed the cause of death apparently under seal and not released by the coroner's office, as did the robbery homicide unit to the press. So we would again reiterate, we believe that Mr. Burke is entitled to discovery. We have served the people with notice. They have 15 days to produce discovery in this case. We would ask that they do that in conscientious earnestness and as quickly as possible.
I'd ask the court to make an order today. We'll take a copy of the minute order ordering the Department of Medical Examiner to release their coroner's report in this case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The court will order that the medical examiner release the report in this case forthwith.
Thank you.
The matter is set in Department 105, as the court indicated, April 23rd, 2026. as a 3 of 10 prelim. Anything further?
No, not at this time.
Bail to Samet, no bail. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
On September 8, 2025, the Los Angeles Police Department was called to the tow yard over reports of a foul odor. Inside the front trunk, investigators found a black cadaver bag containing a decomposed head and torso. A second bag contained additional dismembered remains. The Tesla was registered in Hempstead, Texas, under D4VD's real name, David Anthony Burke. There was no ambiguity about whose car this was. D4VD had been on his withered world tour when the teen's body was discovered in his vehicle. The last few shows of the tour, including those in San Francisco and LA, were canceled. From concert stages to crime scenes, the collapse happened fast. Fans who had been singing along to his lyrics days earlier were now reading headlines they could barely process. A detective with the LAPD pronounced Celeste dead at the scene. Prosecutors allege that Rivas Hernandez's body sat for over 4 months inside the vehicle before it was reported abandoned and towed. 4 months. While the world streamed his music, bought his merchandise, and waited for tour dates, a murdered child lay hidden in the dark of a Tesla trunk. The discovery set off one of the most shocking investigations Los Angeles had seen in years. But the full truth, the autopsy, the evidence, the charges would take many more months to surface. The initial autopsy was performed on September 10, 2025, just 2 days after Celeste's remains were discovered. The manner and cause of death were determined by December 9, 2025, but remained sealed for months at the request of law enforcement. The wait was agonizing for Celeste's family. For months, they knew their daughter was dead but had no official answers about how she died or what had been done to her body. Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Odi Ukpo addressed the delay directly. After several months, I am grateful this information can now be released, not only to the public, but also to the grieving family enduring loss. It is unfathomable they have had to wait this long to learn what happened to their daughter. When the autopsy report was finally unsealed on April 22, 2026, the details were devastating. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner concluded that Hernandez died from multiple penetrating injuries caused by object S, officially ruling her death a homicide. The autopsy faced limitations due to extensive post-mortem changes, as the body had been dismembered and was in an advanced state of decomposition when found. Investigators identified 2 penetrating wounds to the torso with smooth edges that may represent sharp force injuries. One injury to the upper abdomen pierced the liver, while another wound to the left side of the chest caused damage to her ribs. Celeste's body weighed just 71 pounds when it was found. 71 pounds. The weight of a child. The weight of a life extinguished far too soon. If the cause of death was horrifying, the condition of Celeste's body compounded the horror in ways that left investigators, prosecutors, and the public struggling for words. Celeste's remains were found dismembered, in an advanced state of decomposition, discovered in 2 bags inside the trunk of D4VD's Tesla in the Hollywood Hills. Investigators found that Celeste was missing 2 fingers when her remains were discovered. The left ring and pinky fingers appear to have been mutilated, the coroner wrote in the report, and I did not locate them during my scene examination. The investigator also stated that Celeste's left eye was not present, while her right eye showed extensive post-mortem changes. Then came the detail that pierced through the clinical language of the medical report like a knife. A tattoo reading SHHH was found on the inside of Celeste's right index finger, strikingly similar to a tattoo D4VD has on his own finger. Prosecutors pointed to this as evidence of the alleged relationship between the two, a matching tattoo on a murdered child's hand, a silent, chilling symbol that spoke volumes. D4VD was charged with 1 count of murder, 1 count of continuous sexual abuse of a child under the age of 14, and 1 count of unlawful mutilation of human remains. District Attorney Nathan Hochman called it horrific and gruesome, words that, for once, felt entirely insufficient. On April 16, 2026, nearly a year after Celeste was last seen alive, D4VD was arrested by the LAPD. The music had stopped. The tour was long over. Now David Anthony Burke faced the full weight of the justice system. The 21-year-old entertainer pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder with special circumstances, continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14 years old, and mutilating human remains. Prosecutors added special circumstances to the charges, including lying in wait, killing for financial gain, and murdering a witness. Enhancements that opened the door to the harshest possible penalties, life without parole or the death penalty. During the April 23, 2026 court hearing, lead prosecutor Bates Silverman alleged that a significant amount of child pornography was discovered on a phone belonging to Burke, part of what she described as a massive collection of evidence, including digital forensics and witness testimony. That includes data from phones, computers, tablets, and iCloud, where D4VD had about 3 terabytes stored. So far, only about 30% of all the evidence has been turned over to the defense. His defense team, however, remained firm. Attorney Blair Burke stated, "The actual evidence in this case will show that David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and he was not the cause of her death. We will vigorously defend David's innocence."
The prosecution just dropped a bombshell in the murder case of the musician David. They were in court, preliminary hearing, and the prosecution said that there was a significant amount of child pornography on David's iPhone. Now, the hearing today was all about the evidence that the DA's team has managed to build, and the defense wants to see it. They say that David is innocent of the charges, that he did not murder 14-year-old Celeste, but every time there's a hearing, we're learning more about this case, and the DA says that David was sexually abusing Celeste as of September 2023, when she was barely 13 years old, just after she had turned 12. Now, they have another hearing scheduled for later this month, which means that if the judge says, hey, we move forward with the preliminary case, the DA is going to have to produce some of the evidence. That will become public. We will know much more exactly about what kind of evidence the prosecution has, maybe witnesses that they have been talking to, and what the allegations are specifically. But again, the defense maintains that they are pushing for a speedy trial, pushing for the prosecution to give them what they have, because they believe the evidence will not hold up in trial. Also, they have been angling for bail because at this point, David is being held without any bail. He could face the death penalty if he's convicted, because he not only faces a murder charge for the killing of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, but there are aggravating circumstances, including that he was allegedly lying in wait, that he did it for financial gain, and that he murdered a witness. So this is building up into something pretty big.
Behind every court date, every evidence disclosure, every legal argument, there is a family, a mother, a father, 2 parents who used to spend Friday nights watching movies with their daughter. Celeste's parents, Jesus Rivas and Mercedes Martinez, spoke publicly for the first time after the charges were filed, expressing gratitude to investigators and to the community of Lake Elsinore for their support. Celeste was a beautiful, strong girl who loved to sing and dance. Every Friday night was movie night, and we spent wonderful times together, they said. Those Fridays are gone now. Legal analysts told CNN the investigation was prolonged by several factors, including severely decomposed evidence, sensitive allegations involving a minor, and a handful of reluctant witnesses. 3 investigative grand juries examined the case, 1 in November, 1 in December, and 1 in February, compelling testimony along the way without seeking indictments. As of now, Lawyers for D4VD have pushed to force prosecutors to publicly present their evidence, and a judge has set a hearing for May 1, 2026 for them to lay it all out. The district attorney's office has yet to decide whether they will seek the death penalty. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was 14. She loved singing. She loved Fridays. She deserved a future. This case is far from over, and as the evidence unfolds, the world will continue watching, demanding justice for a little girl whose voice was silenced far too soon. Like this story, share it to spread awareness. Subscribe for every update as this case develops. This narrative is based entirely on verified court documents, official autopsy reports, and credible news sources. This is an active legal case. D4VD has pleaded not guilty and is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.